Commander Arlen Hayes had seen many corners of the galaxy, but none of them ever felt like home. He stood inside the small bridge of his diplomatic shuttle, watching the stars stretch into long silver lines as the ship moved through slipspace. The hum of the engines usually comforted him, but today it only reminded him of how far he was from peace, both outside and inside. For years, Arlen had served the Terran Union as a soldier, a negotiator, and sometimes something in between. Humans had earned a reputation across the stars, bold, stubborn, and impossible to break. The galaxy respected them, sometimes feared them, but rarely understood them. Arlen, like many humans, carried that mix of toughness and hidden exhaustion. He wanted quiet. He wanted to believe that peace was possible, even in a universe full of empires fighting for territory and pride. His current mission sounded simple on paper: travel to the border zone between the Vari Empire and the Serenthis Coalition, meet a Vari representative, and discuss a possible ceasefire. But Arlen knew nothing in the galaxy was simple anymore. The Vari were powerful, ancient, and deeply proud. They found humans curious, too emotional, too unpredictable, and too quick to jump into danger. Arlen sighed and rubbed his forehead. "One meeting," he muttered. "Just one. Then maybe a long break." He didn't expect fate to hear that thought and laugh. On the other side of the conflict zone, the Vari ship Silver Gale glided smoothly through empty space. Inside it, Serenith Talvari sat in a dim meditation chamber, eyes closed, silvery blue skin glowing faintly under the low lights. Vari were known for their calm minds and strong empathy. Saran was different, too gentle for military life, too honest for politics, and too unwilling to follow the harsh path the Vari Empire had recently taken. Saran had left their homeworld voluntarily, hoping to convince the warring sides that unity mattered more than conquest. Many Vari considered humans strange, but Saran admired them. Humans fought with passion, loved fiercely, and refused to surrender even when fate cornered them. Saran found that admirable. But admiration did not stop fear. Saran knew that meeting a human officer, especially a decorated one like Commander Hayes, would not be easy. They had studied human history, human emotions, and human unpredictability. Yet Saran also believed in something rare in their empire: hope. If even one human and one Vari could agree on peace, then perhaps entire nations could follow. Saran opened their eyes and breathed out slowly. "Let this meeting show a new path," they whispered. Like Arlen, Saran didn't know that destiny had its own plan. The two ships approached the designated meeting point, a quiet region near a small, uncharted moon. Space looked calm, almost peaceful, but Arlen's instincts felt wrong. Humans relied on instincts, and his had kept him alive through battles and disasters. He checked his sensors again. "Why do I feel like the universe is waiting to throw something at me?" The answer came quickly. A sudden burst of red lights flashed across his console. Pirate signatures. Not the usual petty raiders, but a well-armed group known for attacking ships from both the Terran and Vari sides. They thrived on chaos, and peace negotiations were bad for their business. Arlen cursed under his breath. Of course, because today was going too smoothly. The pirates attacked in formation, firing disruptor blasts at both the Terran shuttle and the Vari ship. Saren's ship also reacted with surprise. The Silver Gale spun to avoid the incoming fire, shields flaring bright blue. Arlen opened a comm channel to the Vari vessel. "This is Commander Arlen Hayes of the Terran Union. If you can hear me, we need to work together or we both go down." Saren's voice answered, calm despite the chaos. "Commander Hayes, I hear you. Our systems are hit. We cannot hold long." Neither ship had enough firepower to escape alone. And the pirates had no intention of letting them leave alive. Arlen made a quick decision, the kind humans were famous for. There's an atmosphere on the moon below. Barely safe, but it's something. Prepare for an emergency landing." Seren hesitated only a moment. "Understood. May fortune guide us." Arlen steered his shuttle downward, engines screaming as they cut through the thin atmosphere. A plasma shot struck his left wing, sending the ship spinning. He fought the controls with all his strength, jaw clenched tight. Seren's ship followed, though less gracefully. The Silver Gale's stabilizers failed, and the Vari vessel broke apart in mid-descent, scattering glowing fragments across the sky. Arlen hit the ground hard enough to knock the breath out of him. His shuttle skidded across rocky terrain and slammed against a ridge. Metal groaned, glass cracked. Silence followed. He sat still for a moment, checking his limbs. Nothing broken. A miracle. Humans tended to have luck like that, reckless but reliable. He pushed the hatch open and stepped out onto the moon's surface. The air was thin but breathable. The landscape stretched in shades of gray and pale blue, with sharp cliffs and quiet plains under a violet sky. Arlen scanned the horizon. He expected to see pirate dropships, but instead, he spotted a single figure walking slowly toward him, illuminated by the faint glow of the broken Silver Gale. Seren. The Vari looked injured but alive. Their long coat was torn, their hair dusted with ash, yet they walked with steady purpose. Arlen raised his hands to show he wasn't a threat. When Seren finally reached him, they spoke in a soft, melodic voice. "Commander Hayes, I am relieved to see you alive." Arlen gave a small, tired smile. "Same to you. That was one hell of a landing." Seren tilted their head slightly. "Hell, an unpleasant place in your culture, yes?" Arlen blinked, then chuckled. "Yeah, very unpleasant." Despite the danger and confusion, that small exchange broke the tension like a warm light in a dark room. But the reality of their situation quickly returned. Arlen looked at the sky. "The pirates will come back, and our fleets won't find us right away. This moon isn't even on official charts." Seren nodded, their expression thoughtful but calm. "Then we must work together. Survival is our first goal." "Agreed," Arlen said. He wasn't used to trusting strangers, especially ones from enemy factions. But looking at Seren, injured, exhausted, yet already focused on helping, Arlen felt something unusual. Comfort. As if this person understood the weight he carried. Seren, on their side, sensed something in Arlen too. Humans had emotions that radiated like warm fire, brave, tired, stubborn, hopeful. Seren felt that hope clearly. It pulled them forward. Together, they stood on the silent moon, two souls from two different worlds, both searching for peace in a galaxy full of conflict. Neither knew it yet, but this unexpected meeting would change everything. For their people, for the war, and for themselves. Their journey had only begun. The moon was quiet, almost too quiet. A cold wind moved across the rocky plains, brushing dust over the broken remains of both ships. Arlen Hayes and Serenith Talvari stood side by side, breathing slowly, trying to understand their new reality. They had no working ships, no working long-range communication, and no idea when, if ever, rescue would come. Arlen checked the scanner on his wrist device. The screen flickered with static. "Short-range functions only," he muttered. "At least it can detect life signs." Seren studied the horizon. Their blue-silver eyes reflected the pale violet sky. "We should find shelter before night comes. Temperature changes will be harsh." Arlen nodded. "Let's move." Even though they came from different worlds, their steps matched naturally, as if the situation had forced their rhythms to sync. The land around them was barren, but strange. Sharp rock formations rose like frozen waves, and glowing moss grew in thin lines that pulsed faintly with energy. As they walked, Seren brushed their fingers over one glowing patch. This moon has a unique ecosystem. The plants react to emotion waves in the environment. Arlen raised an eyebrow. Emotion waves. Plants can do that? Some worlds have such species, Seren explained gently. They sense emotional energy, not specific feelings, but general intensity. Arlen gave a slow, impressed nod. Well, I guess this place is going to be real confused with the two of us walking around. Seren let out a small laugh, soft but real. Perhaps. They continued until they reached a small valley protected by tall stone walls. In the center stood a ruined structure, old, silent, and shaped like a giant circular arch half buried in the ground. Arlen stared at it. What is that? Seren walked closer, touching the smooth stone. Ancient. Very ancient. Maybe thousands of years old. The structure looked fragile. Yet it hummed faintly, like something inside it still lived. Arlen glanced around. Think we can camp here for now? Yes, Seren said. The walls will shield us from the wind. Arlen began gathering pieces of metal and wiring from his crashed shuttle, trying to build a small power source. Meanwhile, Seren collected glowing moss and soft vines to create a resting area. Their movements were graceful, almost calming. After an hour, Arlen managed to get a small heater running. It wasn't much, but it provided warmth. Seren sat across from him, watching the heater flicker. Humans always surprise me, they said softly. How so? You work with limited tools and still create solutions quickly? Vari focus on precision and careful planning. Humans improvise. You adapt to chaos. Arlen chuckled. Well, chaos happens to us a lot. You learn fast or you don't last long. Seren smiled faintly. I see. For a while they sat in silence, each lost in thoughts. The quiet wasn't uncomfortable. It felt natural, like both needed it. But the peace didn't last long. Arlen's scanner beeped suddenly. He looked down. A cluster of red dots moved across the map. Something's coming, he said sharply. Seren stood up immediately. Life forms? Yeah, but small, fast. A moment later, the ground around them trembled. From behind the ruins, small mechanical creatures crawled into view, six-legged drones with glowing white eyes. Their metal bodies were cracked and rusted, but they still moved with purpose. Seren stepped closer, studying them calmly. Ancient defense units, probably part of the old civilization that once lived here. Are they friendly? Arlen asked. Though by the drone's slow advance, he already knew the answer. No, Seren said. They are scanning us as threats. Arlen unsheathed his compact plasma cutter. Seren activated a small energy band on their wrist. The drones moved quickly, surrounding them in a semicircle. Arlen raised his weapon. We don't want to fight, but if you attack... One drone fired a weak stun pulse. Arlen dodged and sliced the drone's side with the plasma cutter. Sparks flew and the machine collapsed. Seren used their wristband to send out a controlled shockwave that pushed two drones back. Commander, we must disable them. Not destroy them, Seren called. I'm trying, Arlen shouted. Working together, they moved in sync. Arlen focused on close-range attacks, while Seren used precise energy waves to disrupt the drone's circuits. After several intense minutes, the last drone shut down and the valley grew quiet again. Arlen wiped sweat from his forehead. You okay? Yes, Seren answered, breathing harder than usual. You? Still alive, he said with a grin. Despite the danger, something had changed. They had fought together, trusted each other without hesitation, and trust came harder than any victory. After securing the valley, they rested near the heater again. Seren inspected one of the drone cores they collected. These machines were programmed to protect something, Something important. Arlen leaned back. Like what? A weapon? No, Seren said slowly. Something cultural. Sacred, maybe. Arlen looked at the stone arch behind them. This structure, maybe it's part of their history. Seren nodded. A memory of a lost civilization. Arlen gazed at the arch thoughtfully. Makes me wonder what happened to them. Seren ran a hand over the drone core. Sometimes civilizations fall not because of enemies, but because they cannot find unity. Arlen felt that sentence hit deeper than it should have. You think that's happening now? With our people? Seren looked at him, their expression soft but serious. Wars start when understanding ends. Arlen was quiet for a moment. The truth in Seren's voice was something he couldn't ignore. After a long silence, he spoke. You know, when this mission started, I thought the hardest part would be talking to a Vari diplomat. Seren tilted their head slightly. And now? Now, Arlen said with a small smile. The hardest part is believing we won't get stuck here forever. Seren smiled back, gentle and encouraging. We will find a way. Together. Arlen nodded. He believed them, more than he expected to. As night fell, the sky turned a deep shade of violet, and the stars looked closer than ever. The glowing moss on the ground brightened softly, lighting their camp like tiny lanterns. Seren sat near the stone arch, tracing patterns on its surface. Arlen joined them, sitting quietly. This arch is part of something bigger, Seren said. Maybe a gateway, or a monument. Arlen touched the stone. It pulsed faintly, as if responding to his presence. It's reacting. Yes, Seren whispered. Perhaps it is connecting to us, learning our presence. Why? Arlen asked. Seren shook their head. I do not know, but ancient structures often carry memories. Maybe this one is remembering us. Arlen looked at the structure again, feeling a strange calm wash over him. Maybe it wasn't dangerous. Maybe it was just lonely, like the moon itself. Seren watched Arlen quietly. They had sensed his emotions from the moment they met. His tiredness, his sense of duty, his hidden kindness. Humans carried their emotions openly like a bright flame, and Arlen's flame burned strong despite everything he had suffered. In that moment, Seren realized something important. This human was not just a partner in survival. He was someone who understood the deep longing for peace, and Arlen, though he didn't express it openly, felt something similar. Seren's calm presence eased his restless mind in a way nothing had in years. Two souls from two worlds, both searching for a peace that always seemed far away. But here, on this forgotten moon, surrounded by ruins that whispered ancient warnings, they found something unexpected, a reason to hope. Their journey wasn't over. The dangers ahead were still unknown. But for the first time, they didn't feel alone. Not anymore. Morning on the moon arrived quietly. A soft silver light spread across the valley, touching the stone walls, the glowing moss, and the ancient arch that had watched over them through the night. Arlen Hayes woke up first. The air felt colder, sharper, as if the world itself was preparing for something important. He checked the small power device he had rebuilt during the night. The transmitter was almost ready. Just a few more adjustments, he muttered. Serenith Talvari stood nearby observing the ruins again. Their calm eyes reflected the early light. You did not sleep much, Seren said gently. Arlen shrugged. Didn't need to. We need a signal up and running. Seren stepped closer. I can help. Together they worked silently for a few minutes. Their movements were smooth, practiced, almost natural. After facing storms, machines, and the emptiness of the moon together, cooperation had become easy. At last, a soft beep came from the device. Arlen straightened. The transmitter is active. Seren tilted their head. Will it reach our fleets? It should, Arlen said, though he didn't look excited. But once they find us, things will get complicated. Seren understood. Their people and his were still at the edge of war. Two leaders arriving at the same place with weapons ready was a dangerous idea. We must prepare, Seren said softly. Arlen nodded. Yeah, because they won't just come to rescue us. They'll come with suspicion. Seren turned toward the arch, its smooth surface shining faintly. Perhaps we have something they must see. Arlen raised an eyebrow. The structure? Yes, Seren said. It carries memories of a lost civilization. If we show it to them, maybe they will understand what we learned here. Arlen thought for a moment. You think we can convince two angry governments to calm down just by showing them old ruins? Seren smiled gently. Not only ruins, the story behind them. Arlen stared at Seren for a few seconds, then chuckled softly. You're too hopeful sometimes. And you are too serious sometimes, Seren answered calmly. Somehow, their differences balanced each other perfectly. Hours passed. The sky darkened suddenly, not from nightfall but from the arrival of massive ships in orbit. Arlen and Seren both felt the shift, a deep hum in the air as scanners swept over the moon. They're here, Arlen said quietly. Seren folded their hands. Let us face them together. Arlen looked at Seren, holding their gaze for a long moment. Yeah, he said softly. Together. Within minutes, two landing shuttles descended. One carried the Terran Union crest, the other carried the Vari Empire symbol, glowing with blue light. Both ships landed with heavy force, stirring dust into the air. Armed guards stepped out, forming protective lines. Behind them walked two leaders, Admiral Rhea Solis of the Terran Union and High Envoy Talvoran of the Vari Empire. Both looked stern, both looked wary, and both carried the weight of war on their shoulders. The air was tense enough to crack. Admiral Solis saw Arlen and rushed forward. Commander Hayes, are you injured? We came as fast as we could after receiving your signal. I'm fine, Admiral, Arlen said, but the situation is complicated. Talvoran approached Seren. Serenyith Talvari, you survived the crash. We feared the worst. Seren bowed respectfully. I am safe, High Envoy. Thanks to Commander Hayes. The moment those words fell, both leaders looked at each other, shocked but curious. A Vari and a human protecting each other? Working together? That alone was enough to make them pause. Admiral Solis's eyes narrowed. Commander Hayes, why was your signal sent near a Vari diplomat? And why do you stand together? Arlen took a slow breath. Because surviving here required both of us. Talvoran turned to Seren. Explain. Seren spoke calmly. This moon holds the ruins of an ancient civilization. One that fell not because of enemies, but because they could not find unity during crisis. Their machines still protected this place. They saw us as threats until we overcame them together. Admiral Solis folded her arms. And what does that have to do with our situation? Arlen pointed at the arch. Everything. The leaders followed them to the structure. The arch glowed softly as they approached, reacting just as it had before. When Seren touched it gently, the entire surface lit up, projecting faint shapes, like memories made of light. The images showed a peaceful civilization slowly falling into division, groups turning against each other, misunderstanding growing into conflict, machines created for protection becoming tools of fear, until finally their cities fell silent. Admiral Solis whispered, "They destroyed themselves." Talvoran's expression darkened, not through battle, through pride. Arlen stepped forward. We saw what happened here, and we realized something. If a human and a Vari, two people from two sides of a war, could survive together, trust each other, and work together with no orders. Seren continued softly. Then perhaps our people can learn to do the same. The leaders exchanged uncertain looks. Their crews watched closely, unsure whether to lower their weapons or raise them higher. Admiral Solis sighed. Your message is inspiring, Commander, but peace is not built from hope alone. No, Arlen agreed. It's built from actions, choices, and sometimes from symbols. Seren nodded. And we stand before you as such a symbol. Both leaders turned to their teams, each weighing their own political burdens. Peace was a difficult path. War was easier, predictable, controlled. But something in the way Arlen and Seren stood side by side made hesitation feel wrong. At last, Talvaran spoke. Admiral Solis, I propose a temporary ceasefire, to study this place together, to understand its lessons. Admiral Solis hesitated, then slowly extended her hand. A temporary ceasefire, and perhaps a new beginning. Talvaran accepted the handshake. The guards lowered their weapons. The air finally softened. Arlen let out a slow, relieved breath. Seren looked up at him with quiet pride. You did well, Seren murmured. Arlen shook his head. We did well. The fleets worked side by side to secure the moon. Scientists, historians, engineers, humans, and Vari alike joined hands to study the ruins. Each discovery brought them closer. Each shared task removed a wall between them. Arlen and Seren walked across the valley later that day, watching the strange glowing moss pulse gently under the sky. I still can't believe it, Arlen said. We actually got them to agree on something. Seren smiled. Your people say something like this, yes? Impossible is just another challenge. Arlen laughed softly. Close enough. Seren looked at him quietly. Arlen, our meeting was not chance. It changed the course of two civilizations. And us, Arlen added without thinking. Seren paused. Yes, they said softly. And us. They stood together in the quiet valley, no longer strangers, no longer representatives of sides, but simply two souls who had found something rare, understanding, respect, and peace in each other's presence. The universe was wide, and their journey had taken them across danger, fear, and uncertainty. But here on this forgotten moon, they found what they had always been searching for, a place where peace was real, and a person who made it possible. Whatever came next, new missions, new negotiations, new challenges, they knew one thing for certain. They would face it together,